Okay. And so coming back to a position that feels like you can hold it. So now we're going to look at the way that the mind is empty and selfless. And again, don't go into a nihilistic extreme. Don't go into thinking nothingness. That's too far. But just explore and kind of play with what it feels like to have an open question about who is this? Who am I? Especially in relation to the mind, this can be very powerful. So just explore. You don't have to come to any magic conclusions or any huge realizations about it. Just see what happens. So come back to what is your positive motivation and articulate it to yourself. Making it more than yourself, more than today. And back to the breath. And so start with a question. What is the relationship between this clear, expansive, reflective quality of the mind and me, the self? Is this aspect of the mind one with the self, separate from, labeled on, not needing to come to a conclusion right away? Just what is the relationship between main mind and me? Am I the mind? Is the mind and I separate? What is that relationship? Explore experientially. Do you have one experience that's stronger than the other? The experience of the reflective quality of the mind, or the experience of self? Does one of them seem stronger or bigger than the other? Just explore. Do they seem like the same thing? Does one come first and the other come second? Or do they arise together? Does it feel like the self is telling the mind what to reflect? Yes or no? Just explore. The self telling the mind what to reflect. Is that how it is? Does it feel like the other way around? That the mind is telling the self what is being reflected? Does it feel like that direction? Just come back to that. Does it seem like the mind is telling the self something about what's being reflected or how it is? Does it seem that way? And what does it feel like to think the mind reflects, and then there is the label self that is placed on top of that, but there is no separate entity self containing or directing the mind? What does it feel like to think mind is mind? Mind is experiencing mind. There is no extra entity, self, in addition to that. Mind is having the experience of mind. Is that the way it is? Could it be? Does it seem like there are multiple selves? A self that is together with the main mind, a self that is together with the mental factors? Or does it feel like there's an extra self holding and observing it all, directing and controlling it? Or not? And every time it feels like there is a solid, separate self, check and make sure it's not just another mental factor, another reflection. Check that it really is some independent entity that's not influenced by anything else. So look for that feeling of solid selfness in any part of the mind. But when you find it, check that it really exists that way. Keep checking. And then see what it feels like to land on the conclusion that the main mind is impermanent, changing moment to moment, is empty of inherent existence, no aspect standing alone, completely selfless. Can you land on that conclusion in some way? And if not, what are the doubts? So now while you're still in your seat and still having freshly meditated, if you have a paper and a pencil or just quietly to yourself, now enter into a reflective space that checks, what have I understood and what am I confused about? And either write that or think about that. What is becoming more clear and what is still confusing? Just really clarify that to yourself. So you can do that just sitting and reflecting or writing. But we'll just spend 5-10 minutes doing that. And you can sit any way you like.